specific training will be to equip SSA leaders with all the practical strategies that you will need to recruit new members, keep them engaged, and we'll be doing all this through effective outreach like tabling, flyers, social media, collaboration with other off-campus or on-campus groups, and making sure that we're maintaining a welcoming and consistent community where students, feel excited to, join the SSA, keep going back to your meetings, and essentially creating that strong alliance that we are of secular non-religious students. So we'll be reviewing a few tips and tricks, and let's get started. So first, step for getting members involved would be finding your people. So the most important step is maximizing your campus visibility. So as a new chapter, as a new leader, you may be a little bit confused, where should I start? How do I even get the word out that I want to start this chapter or that, I am looking for new members? So first and foremost, it's important to make sure that you understand campus rules. So before we get into the fun stuff about advertising, flyers, and all of that, you need to make sure with the student activities office that you are paying attention to their rules, especially if you're already a registered student campus. This is part of the agreements that most these registered organizations sign on to when they become recognized on campus, right? So making sure that you understand where you can table, where you could post posters, what that approval process may look like if you need one, and where these specific locations are on campus. So making sure you have a solid understanding of what that looks like on campus is going to be essential to the success of everything else that comes after that. So, first and foremost, I mean, one of the easiest and I think most fun ways to start getting people involved are, creating flyers that get noticed. So it may seem a little bit outdated, like I could just text people or do things on social media, but the reality is on a college campus, flyers are everywhere. It's a quick way for students to look at what's happening on campus, see who has a club on campus, and just in general, see what opportunities are available for them. So flyers are super, super important. So we always recommend designing bright, eye-catching flyers and making sure that they are posted in high traffic spots where students will just see them every day, all day throughout the week. So when you are looking for locations to post these flyers, make sure that they're, typically there are designated outdoor booths that are made for flyers for students or local communities to post their information. Every building, whether it's engineering, science, or social studies, will usually have bulletin boards throughout the hallways where students could share those things. So always make sure you post all of your flyers in every bulletin board and giant bulletin outdoor board that you can so that way as many people could see, what it is that you're offering, what the chapter is doing, and that the chapter is very much active. So in these flyers, we do recommend highlighting the what's in it for me, making sure that there is a clear and concise line that a student could quickly read and know what's in it for them if they join this chapter. So, in addition to that, including the who, what, when, where, and website is going to be essential. So when you are pitching that what's in it for me for students, it's important to be brief, clear, and specific. Because again, this is something students will look at quickly. So if you could get all of that done in like a few seconds when they read that sentence, then you are doing a great job. So definitely try to keep it personal. Use a lot of you in that language. Like, are you looking for a secular community? Are you interested in, non-religious topics? Like, are you looking to get involved in activism? Using you is really going to draw students in and present to them the idea and the reality that, they could get a lot of what they may be looking for at an SSA chapter, right? So, any questions on that before I kind of move on and continue this conversation? Questions, thoughts on flyerings?
At my campus, I've done
Yes.
flyers before and I've gotten them like approved with a stamp that you need to put them up,
Hmm.
but they're just, pinned to a board and a lot of the time they'll be taken down by students probably within
Mm.
24 hours because I do live in the Bible Belt and, there are a lot of religious students. Do you have any ways that I might be able to combat that or I don't know. I don't know what the best way to handle that situation is.
That is a tricky situation, obviously, because you can't be there and track every single flyer that may be taken down. But if you know this is a just like a reality of what it's like to be on your campus, I think, assigning like weekly flyering, or if maybe someone in your chapter is interested to, quickly scope out where you've posted flyers, and while they do that, have a stack of fresh ones. So then that way, whenever there is that quick rundown of the locations where you've posted, you could do a quick, refresh of those flyers. Because I've actually had other students reach out where their stickers, their flyers, and events that have been taken down or written over. And, there's only so much that you or the campus could do because, it's hard to catch those individuals. But I would recommend, just kind of keeping in rotation, constant flyering on campus and maybe switching that off with other members in your group.
I also
Thank you.
think, just thinking out loud here, not being afraid to post outside of campus, right? Like things like local Starbuckses have like community boards that they manage that may be more controlled, or local coffee shops, where really it's tends to be maybe your type of person hanging out. For instance, but they may also have like encasements, right, where you can give them something and ask them to put it up, and they may actually agree to do so, and that their flyering um, community board rather may be encased with glass or something, to protect it. So also being open to maybe spots outside of campus that students hang out at. um, I would look into that too, because oftentimes those campus walkways where students are just hanging out at all the time, it is very easy for the haters to walk by and snatch a flyer. Um, it's less likely that they may do so in a more public space where there may be consequences for doing so, like management may step in or something along those lines.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're happy to help. And in addition to flyering, trying to pair that with other, recruitment activities like the basics like tabling, chalking, word of mouth, talking to people directly and forming those relationships will definitely help them with recruitment and the flyering. And always, one thing that I always recommend, a handful of really well placed and well designed flyers is going to be much more effective than a bunch of like flyers posted everywhere with a bland, not so pretty and engaging design. So definitely be intentional when you are designing your flyers, where you're posting them, and what message it is that you want to convey to the students that are, quickly glancing at these that may be interested. And some flyers that get noticed. So these are actually some flyers we have received from different student chapters. So as you could see here, they are all very well designed. They have nice colors. They have a purpose there, something to kind of grab your attention. So as we could see, what do you believe in and why, paired with the super bright colors, it's a cute one. So me, if I was a student walking on campus, I'd be like, ooh, that's a cute flyer. What is this about? And as we mentioned, providing some sort of way to contact them, QR code, website, email, they've included that QR code there for people to scan. And same thing with Shepherd University's bright, bold colors. Don't believe in God is the first thing that students will see, as well as multiple ways to contact that chapter as well. And we also have one that was submitted by Hightower High School. Shout out Dustin. This is a flyer that he's used before to recruit students on his high school campus. So as you can see here, bright colors, what is a purpose? What could students get out of it? And that would be, open discussion on scientific thought, religion, and other current topics. So definitely, feel free to take inspiration from these designs, pull little ideas that you like and see here. But we will be sharing and recording this meeting. So if y'all want to refer back to these or want to receive more samples from us, feel free to reach out. But these are some examples of what good, effective flyers can look like that will get noticed and will likely get you a bunch of new students into your chapter. Any other questions on flyers before we move on, or thoughts on this, Sean?
I mean, this brings up just like taking a look at some of these flyers, as just going back to what Amber was saying. You may find that something like the center flyer here, Don't Believe in God, maybe something like that is too forward for your campus. I mean, we all love to be like bold and out with our well, some of us love to be bold and out with our beliefs, and we certainly don't want to shy away from creating spectacle or generating conversations on our campus. But if the reality is that there is enough angry white Christian nationalist type of folks that are in your area that are consistently taking down your "Don't Believe in God" flyers, maybe something like what Dustin has here on the right hand side, maybe more of your speed for your campus, right? Where maybe it is something that is a bit more, coded and appears maybe, not such a bold message at the top, or something like this other one on the left hand side. What do you believe and why? So I would also, kind of do an A/B kind of testing kind of thing. What are your posters being removed as quickly when you go with a different message versus a message like "Don't believe in God" or 50% of students are non-religious, or any of the sort of go-tos that we tend to recommend. So don't be afraid to reach out if you need any ideas for that. But it is unfortunately a reality that a lot of students face. So don't be afraid to get a little bit creative and veer off course a little bit. You can't be as bold in Georgia as we can here. We all sit here in LA, so obviously the flyers we can post at USC or UCLA, very, very different environment.
For sure. And that brings up another good point where we've had some students come to us who are like, I want to make sure that everyone feels that they are welcome into the SSA, including, religious folk or people that are having their doubts but are not necessarily like staunch atheist folks. So in situations like that, we definitely recommend using that softer language that will, attract maybe a larger crowd that would be interested in joining. So, as Sean mentioned, don't believe in God, that's a little too strong. We could be like, are you interested in discussing religion? Like something a little bit more neutral that presents, maybe a softer approach to some students that maybe aren't ready to take a leap to maybe join something so straightforward when it comes to non-religion, but we're still willing to kind of dabble in it. So, yeah, definitely feel free to soften that language and adjust it to your specific community and campus and how you want to do that outreach. All right. So I'll pass this on to the next presenter. I believe it's Chase, tabling like a pro.
Yes. So, of course, SSA, we did produce a video, Stephanie and I, a while back about tabling. So if anybody wants to see sort of a interactive, or not interactive, a video version, live demonstration of tabling, as done, as recorded in our office here, happy to share that. But the main thing you want to know about tabling is number one, you want to be in high traffic areas. In fact, the highest traffic areas, the folks that are also most likely to be interested, are, people that show up for events like Welcome Week, Club Fest, student org fairs. Of course, generally speaking, you need to be a RSO to be able to participate in these fairs, which is, of course, one of the reasons that the SSA does emphasize that reaching RSO status is one of the best ways of not only allowing your group to be more visible on campus, to have a bigger impact on campus. The fact that you're so easily able to participate in events where all the people who want to join student organizations all gather, self-selected, they all gather in the same place. That is really the ideal setting to do tabling. And so the momentum that you get by just participating in these fairs regularly when they take place is going to be the number one recruitment method that is going to give your organization momentum in the long term. But of course, the reality is that new SSA chapters are always starting. So let's say you haven't reached RSO status yet. Well, number one, rarely there are cases where actually you can table as a non-RSO. That's not super common. But if you want me to help check if your school might be one where you can table as a non-RSO in one of these fairs, I can look it up for you. But if you're in the East region or if you're in the West region, feel free and contact Stephanie. And let's say you are at a school where, as a non-RSO, you're not able to participate in one of these fairs. It's also true that almost all schools have designated spaces on campus. Oftentimes in your school website or student handbook, they'll sometimes be referred to as free speech zones. So generally speaking, this would be something like the quad, for example, space in front of the library, space either in front of or inside of your student union building. There are many opportunities to be able to table outside of a fair setting in by setting up a table in one of these free speech zone spaces. So that way, even if you can't participate in the Student Orgs Fair, you still have a chance to be able to table. There's not that self-selected element of all the people who want to join Student Orgs all being in one place, but especially if you are doing regular tabling, doing it at least a few times per semester, that is also going to gather you enough members that you're going to be able to reach RSO status relatively quickly. And then at that point, when the next official Student Orgs Fair takes place, now you can participate in that fair and you'll sort of have leveled up your tabling ability. But of course, there's also the question of how do you execute your tabling? How do you make sure that you've got the table set up, you've got all the supplies that we shipped off to you in a box? How do you make sure that you get the most impact out of the time that you're there at your table? Well, we do have some tips for that. A good tip is always having at least two people. Strength in numbers. Number one shows that we're not just sort of a single person. We are an organization who are working on goals together. It also has, of course, the advantage that one person can be more engaged in conversation while another person could be ready. Let's say the person says, "Oh, I'm really interested in this." You could go ahead and grab a flyer that relates to that topic or a sticker that relates to the issue that they brought up. If somebody is engaging in conversation and you realize that they're sort of obviously very interested, you go ahead and grab a QR code for them to scan. So it's like, hey, by the way, you seem very interested. Why don't you just go ahead and scan this QR code so that you can sign up as part of our new live roster? Or if they're too busy, they're about to run it, you can see that they're obviously about to leave because they're late for class or something. Like, hey, before you go, let me hand you one of these business cards. Having two people means that you can more easily delegate these tasks. In fact, earlier today, I was having a meeting with the student leader, and I was mentioning that, during tabling, one of the things that's effective is, very rarely we will have these folks, who come by who want to engage us in conversation, but it's not really in a good faith way. They're not genuinely really interested in the club. They're trying to sort of get you in a gotcha moment, or they're maybe just trying to basically convert you to Christianity. And of course, we do want to remain polite in these situations. So one of the advantages of having two people versus one is now you can have one person continue to man the table. And what's generally good to do in that situation is have a second person say, "Hey, I'm glad you're so interested in our student organization, but let's step off to the side really quick because you got a bunch of really great questions." And then what you want to do to exit yourself, frankly, from the situation as quickly but politely as possible is say something along the lines of, you do have really great questions. And honestly, like, as a student leader, I don't have the answer to everything that you have. But I can recommend that you go to our SSA website. If you want to contact my national, campus organizer, you can contact, Chase at this email address. He'll likely be able to answer some of these questions, perhaps better than I can. Or if you want to sort of keep it more in-house, you could also say, "You've got a bunch of great questions, but I think to really get a full answer for you, it'd probably be better if I reply by email. So here's our SSA chapter email, and go ahead and give them that chapter forwarding email address that we've created for you. Write that down on a little piece of paper for them, something like that. And that way, you're being polite. You're showing that you're obviously answering their questions, but you're also avoiding getting yourself trapped in a 45-minute conversation where all that person is trying to do is convert you to Christianity." And so that's sort of one of the ways of avoiding a pitfall. But of course, also you just want to maintain a friendly demeanor. Doing something like standing in front of the table, making sure that you're not just sitting there looking at your phones. If you're both sort of sitting behind the table and you don't have open body language, if you have your arms crossed, for example, that makes you look a little bit less friendly than if you have your arms sort of open. So that makes you look more open and more interested in conversation. Little things like that Stephanie and I also cover in that video I referenced will help make people feel more comfortable walking up to approach you. And then lastly, speaking of people walking up to approach you, what if someone does only have a couple minutes to chat before they need to run off to some other engagement? Well, having that elevator pitch is going to be another really critical part of this. One example, I would give is if somebody says, "Hey, I've never heard about the Secular Student Alliance before. I'm an atheist, but I never really considered being part of a group like this. Why would I want to do this?" Some of those, tastes, things that we talk about, and also what Sean's talked about in terms of what's in it for me. It's great to be able to say, well, hey, by the way, the same way that religious folks absolutely have a right to, form student organizations, so that their membership feels welcome on campus and folks of their faith don't feel alienated and alone. We do something very similar. We provide community so that a new atheist student who shows up on campus knows that there are like-minded individuals who have gone through some of the same situations that they've gone through, and that we provide that critical like emotional support to one another. Especially for folks who might have only recently exited a strict religious background and might still be adjusting to a new life now that they're living independently and they can leave some of the baggage of their life when they were still living at home with their parents, behind. And so, mentioning that we provide community, that we provide leadership experience, it's a great thing you could put on your resume. That, in some cases we engage in community service, and also it's just fun. We organize cool events. We have speakers. Oftentimes groups will apply for grant funding so that they could have snacks at a meeting. So it's a chance to be able to grab some free food while you also meet up with your friends and have a chat about either, cool things that are going on campus that want to add more cool events on campus, or if you happen to be in a state where something negative is happening, it could be a chance for you to organize and make sure that your voices are heard, so that whether it's at the campus level, the local level, the state level, you're making sure that word is getting out there that not everybody agrees. Because certainly in our politics nowadays, I know there is a lot of stuff that I don't agree with. So making sure that we are unified, we have a platform together. This means that all of our voices together are going to be far louder than if we all tried shouting individually. So that was probably honestly a little bit long for an elevator pitch. You could do a shorter version of it. I was just trying to hit all the bases. But pick anything sort of from that list, or feel free to add something of your own that inspires the most passion in you. And I guarantee you, if you just pick that, whether it's community, whether it's, providing service, whether it's providing leadership opportunities, etc., whatever speaks to you the most, I'm sure that passion will come out. So that will make an elevator pitch of like 2 minutes, what have you, 3 minutes. It will make it that much more effective if you pick those items that speak to you. So those would be the main recommendations for tabling like a pro. And next, we do have expanding your reach. So we all do know that in this current age that we live in, we need to do more than just organizing in person and more than just having an email list. An email list is great, but the reality is that people just might not open up their email that day. This is why, as part of becoming a full SSA chapter, you do need to have some sort of group messaging platform. So generally speaking, in my experience, the platforms that are most common nowadays are Discord and GroupMe. But if for whatever reason there's a different platform that makes more sense for your group, there certainly are other options. But this way, not only can you send out a email saying, by the way, reminder, we have our next meeting happening at such and such time at such and such place. It's very easy to hop in a Discord and write a message along the lines of, hey, reminder, everybody, we're meeting at 3 p.m. later today, all caps, there will be free pizza. And that's also going to be a good way of ensuring that you have high turnout. Also, like let's say your group is now gathering a significant amount of momentum. momentum. That's when it might make sense to not just have a Discord and a GroupMe. It might make sense to have a TikTok or Instagram page. Let's say you're bringing a really cool speaker to campus, like Matt Dillahunty, or let's say you're hosting a screening of a documentary, like, as an SSA chapter, you could host a screening of Bad Faith, for example, a documentary film we secured the rights to. That would be a great thing to promote on your Instagram because, posting a nice image that relates to the documentary film Bad Faith is going to make it that much more appealing. Being able to highlight that some cool speaker is going to be there on campus is going to make it that much more appealing. So making sure that you have those platforms, that you grow the number of platforms you have as your organization grows. So that way, if let's say when you're first starting out, it might make sense to only have president, vice president, treasurer. That's oftentimes what's required by your school when you first reach RSO status. But once your club grows enough and now you've got more members and you've got sort of more opportunities for things you can do with the club, that's the moment when, if you haven't already, it probably makes sense to add a social media officer, somebody whose specific role in the club is to manage the Discord or GroupMe and to also manage the Instagram or TikTok, because having someone whose dedicated role is a social media officer also means that you are going to be consistent. And having consistency in the spaces like Discord, Instagram, etc., are going to make sure that number one, people remember to check it regularly, which means you're keeping engagement high, and it also just creates that community feeling. When people know that the Discord is sort of an active and lively space, it's great when you can see that people aren't just posting about SSA meetings there, they're also posting about a cool movie they saw, since I love movies, or the crazy preacher you saw on campus, a good class to take, some fun activity that people could do, separate from the club, just meeting up to get coffee or what have you. Creating that lively space is going to have benefits for the club itself, because if people are sharing these other experiences that sort of go beyond the world of secularism as well, when they're on your GroupMe or Discord, what have you, that means that now your group is more tightly bound together. You really know each other, and it's just a space that you want to be because you feel so connected with those people. And then lastly, as you develop more platforms, it does make sense, to cross promote. Make sure that all of these digital platforms that we have are in dialogue with one another. And yeah, and that way you're making sure that if you're gathering interest on Instagram, you can transfer that interest over to your Discord and vice versa. So really creating a comprehensive media strategy that the social media officer can oversee is going to be one of those ways that you maintain excitement and engagement in the long term. And if you're a newly developing club and let's say your social media officer still feels like they need advice and support, they're not really sure what's the way to sort of help encourage that highly engaging environment, well, then that would be a good thing to reach out to your organizer, either myself for the East region or Stephanie for the West region. We can certainly provide pointers and advice on what are good things to help build up your Discord space, how to make sure that it's, that lively space that attracts people, and make sure that if, let's say, they're showing up there for the first time because they saw a flyer, but they haven't attended a meeting in person yet, creating that lively Discord space is going to make it even more likely that after they've only interacted with you digitally, they're like, oh man, I can't wait to get a chance to meet all these folks in person. So I'm definitely going to go to that next meeting that they're posting about. All right. And then collaborating with other orgs. There are a number of opportunities. I mean, there are groups that, of course, are just natural fits for our sort of ideological values. So, things like GSA, or sometimes called, Gender Sexuality Alliance, or Gay Straight Alliance was sort of the original version of that. There have been different names for that. Spectrum. These folks are, of course, natural allies, given that secularism, by its nature, of course, course, by recognizing the inherent dignity of all human beings, regardless of whatever details of your identity may exist. That aspect of believing in basic human dignity, of course, means the LGBTQ plus community finds welcoming arms in secularism when sadly they've oftentimes been rejected by the religious faith that these folks might have grown up in. But of course, your potential collaborators on campus don't have to just be limited to those folks who are really aligned with your ideological values. Of course, the Democratic Socialists of America would also be a group that, quite frequently collaborates with the SSA due to our shared values. I wrote the little sort of middle paragraph down there here for this slide because I wanted to highlight that Mississippi State happens to be the SSA chapter that has done the most work in regards to interfaith events. And so, what I really wanted to highlight about Mississippi State in that middle paragraph is that their interfaith events have really run the gamut in the sense that they have had interfaith events that, frankly, were a little bit more antagonistic. There were these two preachers who are a father and son duo called the Nettles. And they travel around from campus to campus and have a pretty evangelical worldview. And they reached out to the SSA and said, we would want to have a debate with you. And because a simple, Google search of their background revealed that, these people, the father and son duo stances, are relatively backwards in my own personal opinion. And given the fact that they are the ones that proposed this debate themselves, that meant that it really was a debate where there was some genuine give and take. And I was really proud of both the SSA chapter leader at the time, who was named Gabe, and the SSA advisor, Bob Swanson. They were the two representatives for the SSA who were both on stage at the same time, while you have these father and son duo who are also on stage. So it's sort of a two-on-two debate. And Gabe and Bob did a really excellent job breaking down some of the logical fallacies. And there's some really great video of it. And the cool thing about it is that because the Nettles promoted out to their super evangelical network, you got a mixture of people in the crowd. It ended up being standing room only. Every single seat was taken, and there's a whole bunch of people at the back of the room that couldn't even get seats because you've got folks that are, coming there because they heard about this from the SSA, but there's also folks that are coming there because they heard about it from the evangelical network that the Nettles are part of. And the cool thing about it is they actually hosted sort of an open Q&A session at the end of it, and a strong number, like about five, six, seven highly religious students who had never heard about the Secular Student Alliance before, commented to our SSA chapter at Mississippi State that, hey, I'm still an evangelical Christian, but I think you made some really excellent points. And it just goes to show that being strident in our values does not even necessarily turn off people who are evangelical Christian if they are just have that little bit of an open mind that thankfully some religious people, in fact not just some, a significant chunk of religious people do still have that ability to sometimes question things and to sometimes approach things from a scientific rationalist point of view. And I had other benefits in the sense that a more progressive Christian group became aware of the SSA as a result of this and became a collaborator with the SSA on a number of both community service projects and interfaith events that really lined up because this progressive Christian group that heard about the SSA from the event actually did share a lot of our values, such as caring about the LGBTQ plus community. So, a sort of contentious debate actually ended up leading to situations where they had, instead of this contentious setting, it ends up being a far more collaborative setting. We also did an SSA training last year that Bob Swanson, the advisor of the Mississippi State group, hosted. And one of the things he highlighted is that how an interfaith event comes about really should be a big part of the determination of how you approach that event. If a pretty evangelical group group proposes a debate with you, well, they're frankly coming, it's sort of like a boxing match. They're coming in prepared for a fight. So you better be prepared for a fight too. But it's a little bit different when, as word about our Mississippi State group and how we're doing interfaith events, as word about this spread, they also reached out to some progressive Christians that they had heard about and said, why don't you come out to our meeting and actually talk with us about some of the things you're trying to do in terms of, your community work and how we could maybe collaborate on areas where we do have shared values. And Bob pointed out that when you are inviting a religious figure to your event, on the other hand, there now becomes an issue of just good manners. If you have taken the time to invite a religious figure, presumably this would obviously be a more progressive figure, and you do want to accord this person or persons a basic level of respect because they have gone out of their way to come to a atheist setting. And so even if we disagree with them on a number of things, there are polite ways to make sure that you're not trying to win a debate in the same way that you are against the Nettles. Because if the more progressive religious figures that you invite to come out to a Secular Student Alliance event, if they end up feeling that they're sort of cornered and that you're trying to get them in a gotcha moment, well, guess what? Word's going to spread around to the other progressive religious folks that, hey, don't go to those SSA events. Those people are just trying to corner you and try to make you look bad. So do keep in mind the difference between a sort of debate where they're coming to you and they're trying to create a sort of a verbal fight between your organizations, and a setting where it's like, hey, you're a friend, you're someone who shares some of our values. We want to invite you in, so we want to accord you this respect. And then also part of what I'm getting at here by talking about these personal invitations are powerful across the board. Whether you're talking about organizing an interfaith event, whether you're talking about reaching out to your local Democratic Socialists of America, any sort of outreach where you're trying to bring somebody who has either never heard of the SSA before, or maybe they've heard of us, but they've just never really engaged with us before. Personal invitations do carry a lot of weight. And so there are a whole bunch of settings where just doing that personal outreach, sending them a message on Instagram, sending them an email, depending on what contact info is out there, reaching out to them personally is going to have that much more weight than them just seeing a flyer. And if you ever need help identifying groups that you might want to reach out to for collaborations like this, do feel free and contact your campus organizer. We can always help you do some research so you can come up with a list of folks that you might want to reach out to, student organizations, outside organizations, what have you, that might be potential collaborators. And then lastly, before I pass off the microphone, retention, keep them coming back. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, creating a lively digital platform and then over time platforms is going to be a big part of retention because it means that people always have a Discord that they can go to and ask a question or just connect with like-minded folks. But it also really comes down to some of the basics of organizing before some of these digital platforms existed, like regularity, hosting regular meetings, making sure that you're constantly promoting. Put up flyers periodically. Usually the flyers will be up for, let's say a week to a couple weeks. Once those flyers come down, probably a good time to maybe put up a couple more. If you're regularly tabling, regularly hosting meetings, all of these things are going to provide a structure so that people know that this, organization, they know that it's something they can rely on and come back to until it becomes a point where it's just ingrained. Where, especially if you reach a point where you are able to host meetings on a consistent schedule, let's say always at Wednesdays at 3 p.m. or what have you, it reaches a point where people show up Wednesday at 3 p.m. without even needing to check their Discord or their email. And then also, inclusivity, not only creating a structure that people know they can rely on, but getting people involved, making sure if someone's showing up for the first time, taking a moment to welcome them and say, hey, I see that you're here for your very first meeting. Like, I'm really happy that you showed up here. As a leader, it's really good to take just 30 seconds, a minute to pull someone aside who's attending your meeting for the first time, introduce yourself, say, I'm the president, I'm the vice president, I'm the treasurer of the Secular Student Alliance Club. I'm really glad you came out. That sort of personal connection is also going to help make sure that your retention remains high. And other little details, things like if you're, let's say you're too busy sort of running the meeting to be able to do something like that, assign a greeter who could do that job for you instead. Maybe use name tags. Make sure that your discussions are inclusive. A good way of doing that is oftentimes, at a first meeting for a new club, or maybe just a heads up if you happen to have a bunch of new members who show up after you've done highly successful tabling. The veterans might already know this, but if you got five new people in the room, it might be good to say, hey, by the way, the veterans here already know this, but we really want to make sure that people don't make assumptions about other people's, gender or sexual preferences, etc. If we are allowed to disagree with each other in this space, but make sure that you don't engage in ad hominem attacks on each other. We don't tolerate transphobia, misogyny, racism. Just giving people a sense of the ground rules is going to help make sure that you don't have somebody come into this space and start spouting off a bunch of transphobic crap or whatever that's going to make other people feel uncomfortable and suddenly take a welcoming environment to feeling like a more toxic environment. We obviously want to make sure that we're constantly adding new people and we're bringing them into the mix. But that's why it is important when new folks are coming in to make sure that there's a consistency in terms of not only the regular schedule of meetings, but making sure that there's decorum, that there are sort of standards of behavior, and that everyone's identities and backgrounds are respected. So thank you very much for listening to all of that from me. I'm happy to follow up if anyone wants to email me additional questions about anything I just covered. My email is SSAEast. I'll drop it in the chat right now, but I'll go ahead and pass over the microphone.
Great, and we can pause real quickly for some questions as we did with Stephanie's section. I see one here in the chat in regards to Discord. Could you elaborate on that? You can go ahead and come off of mute. Says, do you recommend doing any vetting for Discord or other chat apps?
Oh, yeah,
Could
this is
you?
Cassandra.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, bad faith actors that might come into the Discord or other kinds of like spaces where you're trying to build community, and what kind of community agreements, like you talked about just a second ago at your meeting, you make like sort of a, veterans know this, that we like are non-discriminatory, so on and so forth. Do you have something similar that y'all recommend for the Discord or group meet chats that then folks can use to help point people back to, or use
Mhm.
moderation or so on and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think through Discord, if I remember correctly, there's several tools on there. So first, requiring like new members to verify their email, phone number. Um, certainly implement the setting that makes sure people are inputting a captcha before joining. Maybe even limiting the amount of time that your invite link is live. I know there's a way you can do that on Discord as well, so you can screen the people that are coming into your Discord. You can also use like their built-in verification levels. So if you have a verified email, or you must be a member for a set amount of time before you can start engaging with the group more broadly. Um, there's also things like tiered roles, like a new member, verified, trusted member, to limit the access of maybe more sensitive information. Um, and then, certainly post a clear rules and code of conduct. That's something we would always recommend. So post clear community guidelines, really having something pretty explicit that discourages trolling and things of that nature. And you'd be surprised that happens even within our ranks. I mean, even about like really silly things. One of our chapters has a Discord channel where they do a lot of gaming. I think Minecraft, I believe. And there was a student, a non-religious student, who was trolling other students, like basically talking down to them, bullying them about the video game they were playing together. And so that became inappropriate actually pretty quickly, and they had to take some formal action there. Um, so those are like some basic recommendations, and I would say again, like this varies campus to campus. I certainly think making sure you do what is safest for you. For example, some students may put a Discord link on their poster. On your campus, that might not be something that is all that appropriate. And I would certainly say that if you're having a public forum type space, coordinating your public events and things of that nature in a space where you have vetted leaders, I think is really important. So again, toggling those channels and saying, okay, and this channel is locked to this type of user. This channel is only for people who have come to our meetings. And as a admin of the Discord, you can toggle between those user roles, which would then give people access to maybe your planning page for an upcoming public event that you're going to hold. Something that you may want to keep private until the day of that event or the week of the event to prevent bad actors from planning any sort of counter protests or anything like that on campus. Does that answer any of those questions for you, or any follow up specifically on any of those things?
No, that's really helpful. Yeah, I'm just aware that I'm in a rural community, and so wanting to make sure that we try to provide safe, brave, safe spaces for students. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I am totally happy to jump on Discord and make like a little video tutorial of any of those things specifically as you're setting up your Discord. If you have any questions, you can forward them off to Chase or I, and I'm happy to just kind of walk you through some of those settings because I can tell you I didn't know what Discord was when I first started here. Please don't laugh at me, y'all. But like I had no idea what Discord was when I started as an organizer with SSA. Um, and I had been doing very political work for a very long time. Um, but we just use such different channels. I've used like Signal and GroupMe and things like that. But Discord was less familiar. And I will say it's very customizable, Discord. But because it's so customizable, that presents just a lot of very complicated elements that I've had to learn a little bit about. So happy to do that if you would like me to. Okay, any other questions about any of that content we just covered? All right, so we can jump into the next slide. Oh, great. First 5 meetings. It's already up. Cool. So lots of us can table well, and some of us are really like social media masters. I think the harder part is once you get people to show up is sort of retaining them. So like designing a meeting and a culture that people just like don't want to miss. I think the two things here that really move the needle most, and Chase covered this a little bit already, but consistency and creating a welcoming and engaging experience for everyone. So if students can count on your meeting being at the same time in the same place, and if your experience is inclusive, fun, useful, that'll help build a habit of them returning. So just want to kind of hone in on a couple of these key areas quickly. So consistency is really what is the number one thing to help build any sort of habit. So pick a day, a time, and location, and really stick to it. That single choice can really drive attendance more than anything else. So if you're a new group, pick a time that works for the majority of your leaders. If it's just two of you and it's a time that works well for you, pick that time and stick to it and build around that time, right? So once you have that time, you want to make sure you're keeping that time sacred as well, as I would say. So start really within 5 minutes, end on time, cap your meetings, be respectful of other people's time. Make it clear when a formal meeting ends so that people can really leave guilt-free. Like here in 5 minutes, if I'm gonna go over time, I'm gonna say, please, everyone leave. If you gotta get going, get going. I'll stick around for some questions. It's typically how I end our meetings here virtually. And that's so people can really leave guilt-free and understand that you're respectful of their time. And then, keep a little bit of informal hang time for those who do want to connect. And then make it welcoming and fun. So snacks are a good way to do this. So make sure you're inclusive with those snacks, though. Having some vegan, vegetarian, allergy-friendly sort of options works really well. Fun fact, Oreos are vegan, so that's a really great snack to have. Everyone loves an Oreo. Um, and then don't run meetings that are just like all business. Use that case framework. So again, community, advocacy, service, education. Keep that variety. Some groups that meet more frequently on a week-to-week basis will actually rotate through those things. So some weeks they will do, if they're doing weekly meetings, they'll do a meeting focused mostly on community. So they may have like some sort of fun activity that they're doing, get to know you type activity, or maybe they're just sitting around playing some video games for that 1 week, that one meeting every week. Then they may do another meeting the following week, more around advocacy. And maybe that is a week where they invite a speaker to come in and teach them all something or advocate for a specific issue area. Then they may do the next week on service. So they get together and be of service to one another or the community, or plan around an additional event to be of service to the community. And then finally, the education portion as well, very similar to advocacy. And then, some of the more basic things like having a greeter and name tags. So always have a greeter out front. Not everybody is going to be aware of where you're meeting at. So especially with some of these bigger campuses, certainly important that you've got someone in a location where they can greet people to bring them into the room. Then also consider having some name tags, pronoun pins, things like that to keep things inclusive. Great. So as far as the first 5 meetings go specifically, your first meeting should really set the tone, culture, momentum for the semester. You want to nail these, and that it's going to really help increase your retention. So the first meeting, I think, should always just sort of create a welcoming, belonging space and a general sense of purpose. So using a low stakes icebreaker, making participation optional, emphasizing that you're a judgment-free zone, and collecting sign-ins to make sure you're able to invite people to the group chat before they leave, and making sure you're avoiding sort of any clickiness amongst the group. And you can do that by getting all of your leaders on the same page and, sort of introducing the goal of the meeting to the leaders within your group. So if you know that you have a clicky group, maybe set a meeting for 5 minutes beforehand and say, hey, the goal of this meeting is going to be to recruit new members. So let's drop the clicks and let's actually all take on the role of a greeter today, and get together and actually greet folks as they come in the new door, as they come into the door for the first time. So then maybe meeting number 2, and again, these are just suggestions. You may consider doing a meeting where you're inviting more community and inviting more input from those new members. So doing a light social or topical discussion around different prepared prompts. Running a quick brainstorm or poll. What would you like to see this group become, right? You have your vision of the organization you're trying to build on campus. But what things do other people have in mind, right? Introduce that case framework, community, advocacy, service, education. Introduce that and then capture ideas around those critical areas. Then on meeting 3, week 3, you may consider what I would call like an activation or leadership spotting. So introduce that it's a simple case activity. So something like a small service action, or maybe writing advocacy letter. One of the things that we partner with American Humanists on, for instance, they have an online publication that students like to publish things in. So maybe you invite students to write during the meeting. Um, you could also invite them to watch a film or something along those lines. So, really start getting some of those, that case framework involved in your week to week meeting. Now that you have created an inclusive environment, you've gotten an idea of what everybody wants out of the group. Now start implementing some of those things. And then on meeting 4, you really want to start to, thinking about hosting or promoting an early public event really quickly. So give bite-sized little roles to some newer members. One really quick built-in thing that you could do is maybe do a movie screening. That's something that a lot of students like to do really early on. Bad Faith is a perfect example of a movie that lives and breathes our values and sort of introduces the importance of secular spaces in our very religious world. And then finally, a suggestion for meeting number 5 is to really celebrate and kind of calibrate. So acknowledge the wins of your first month of meetings. Share one metric that moved, right? So our meetings went from just being the 2 of us to, wow, we just showed a film and now there's 10 of us here at this meeting. And there was 20 people at the film screening. So that was really cool. And then ask for feedback and really adjust your upcoming practices. So again, start on time, end on time, keep it engaged, but not super admin heavy. Follow up the same day to invite people to the next meeting with meeting notes as well, if you can. Really never cancel. Yeah, we were thinking about a week ago, we had very low attendance to one of our trainings. It was like, oh, should we really cancel? The answer is always no. I think just move forward with your plan. Have a backup plan if needed. For things like low attendance, but never cancel. Even if that one person shows up, that is that one person. And again, be respectful of their time and don't cancel on them. Um, and then really spot and mentor your future leaders early. If you're not inviting them to be officers, maybe say, hey, I saw you were really engaged in this meeting and just wanted to talk to you afterwards for a little bit. Do you have a quick minute to chat? Even doing things like that can help people help get people feeling more invested in you and in your chapter. Um, and yeah, I think that is about it for the tips that I have. So just want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's 5:03 now, or Pacific time, so maybe 8 p.m. for many of y'all. So we're gonna go ahead and invite people to leave if they need to, and then I'm gonna just cover one more slide here, and then I'll open the door to some questions as well about these few slides. Okay, so then sustaining engagement beyond the first 5 meetings or beyond meetings. So community doesn't really stop when a meeting ends. So a group really thrives when you create several touch points online and in person. So just like some 3 main things, 3 levers, if you will, that you should pull are gather some feedback and use it. So mix quick polls, maybe anonymous slips I've seen people use, or one-on-one conversations, inviting people to engage afterwards um, to elicit that feedback. So if something's flopped, don't repeat it. If a speaker crushed, book a follow-up, right? So certainly don't think like, oh, we've done this already, let's stop doing it. Actually, quite the opposite. If people enjoyed what you did, if that is the most fun you've had at one of your meetings, consider replicating it. And then be transparent. If you can't run with an idea, explain constraints or budgets or bandwidth. That's one of the things we have to deal with around here a lot. We've got a lot of really, really great ideas between Stephanie, Trace, and I. But we have very limited funding as an organization and even less bandwidth. There's 3 of us at campus organizing, managing like a lot of different moving parts. Obviously, we're not on the ground with every chapter across the country, but we've got our hands in the pots of a little bit of everything when students need help. And then we're also managing programming and a lot of other things. And so when we come up with a new idea, we've got to really acknowledge that there are constraints and bandwidth, and we try our best not to overpromise. I always say under promise, over deliver. And so, as you're gathering feedback, remember that. If somebody says to you, I think this is what we should do next time, and your first thought is, that would be nice, but that's going to take a lot of work. Be honest about that, and be straightforward with your members. And then, still work to make it happen. But I think setting, appropriate expectations when you receive that feedback is really important. And then keep an active online space, as we mentioned before. So pick a hub, Discord, GroupMe, WhatsApp, Facebook, and keep it lively. So it's really useful to post 2 or 3 times a week as a leader. This could even be just sharing a news article, could be event reminders, could be quick wins, could be a photo of your pet or something. Like, I don't know what it is. But make sure that folks are getting on there and getting used to posting 2 or 3 times a week. And you could really structure this as well. Like, you could, for example, if you know that a lot of your students go home on the weekends, for example, maybe you make a consistent ritual, if you will, to share a photo from your hometown every weekend. Or something along those lines. Or if you know that everybody is going to be studying, maybe doing a post about study tips for midterms every single semester. So, it's really trying to put together some sort of calendar or structure for yourself or your group as well, can really help that online space keep active. And then if you can't do this yourself, assign a moderator so that discussions stay welcoming and on topic. And that moderator can also be the person who's coming up with these sort of what we would call a posting calendar or a social media calendar, where they're generating ideas and they're generating conversations, but then they're also monitoring those conversations to make sure that they continue to live our values and stay a welcoming space. Cool. So then you want to maintain a variety within the case mix. I would say prioritize the real social aspect of things. So prioritize those friendships that are forming. Those social aspects are glue. So I think really making sure that you're not delving too much into the business side of things. I think that is really incredibly important. But I think also you want to make sure that there is room for that sort of social aspect as part of every single one of your meetings, because that is a real reason why students are getting involved in a lot of our chapters. Are they want that sense of community. And then you want to layer in those easy service projects, right? It's not going to be easy right off the bat to organize your own cleanup, but maybe there's a group in the area that's already doing cleanups, an environmental chapter that you can jump on board with and say, hey, we're not going to organize this, but this Thursday, I know that the Sierra Club is doing a cleanup, and all of our members, we're going to go and we're going to hang out at the Sierra Club meetup, and we're going to tell them about our group. And vice versa. Maybe there's a local humanist chapter that is doing a movie screening, and maybe that's something that's more geared towards your chapter, but you want to tack on to some of those things. So layer in some of these easy wins and service projects and things along the way. Great. And then SSA organizers, we can always help with your ideas. We can always help with problem solving. We can help with supplies. So do check out some of our resources. So check out secularstudents.org. We've got our new leader guide up there. We just edited and updated the new leader guide. This is also in our newsletter. I think 2 weeks ago we posted it.